Epistemology is the branch that studies how humans acquire, validate, and apply knowledge to understand and interact with the world. It seeks to answer fundamental questions such as, how do we acquire knowledge? Is certainty possible? What is the role of our senses? What are the standards for truth and certainty? And what is the role of reason in human life? Why is this important? Well, you see, epistemology is essential to our lives because it enables us to understand the reality around us, thereby guiding us to make decisions that enhance our existence. When our choices and actions are informed by a deep understanding rather than assumptions or speculations, they necessarily lead to better outcomes. The approach we take to acquire knowledge and how we interact with reality directly shapes our ethical values and political principles. This connection shows how a rational epistemological stance not only forms the foundation for ethical behavior, but also supports a political system that respects individual rights and freedom. As such, epistemology profoundly influences our personal decisions, ethical codes, and the ideologies we support. It's crucial to recognize that the oppressive nature of every tyrannical and authoritarian regime stems from flawed epistemological roots. This understanding emphasizes the importance of epistemology in shaping not only our individual lives, but also the broader social and political landscapes we live in. Epistemology builds on the principles of metaphysics. We've established in the previous segments that reality is objective. In other words, that reality is completely independent from consciousness. Try to keep this fact in mind as we proceed forward, since it really constitutes the basis of objectivist epistemology. Now, can we acquire knowledge with certainty about that reality we live in? If so, how? What is the nature of knowledge? How can we understand the universe and make informed decisions? And what tools do we have? Objectivism holds that not only is it possible to gain certainty and knowledge, but that it is crucial for humans to live ethical and fulfilling lives. The main principles of objectivist epistemology are: 1. Sense perception as the foundation of knowledge. 2. Concept formation for organizing reality. 3. Reason as a primary means of knowledge. 4. Integration of knowledge for building a coherent worldview. 5. Objectivity in knowledge for the pursuit of truth. 6. The choice of cognition as the power of volition. And 7. The contextual nature of knowledge, or understanding within parameters. Our senses, sight, hearing, taste, touch, and smell, form the only direct connection or link we have with reality. They are the only means through which we perceive the universe around us, serving as the foundation upon which all our knowledge is built. These senses don't just hint at the world, they reveal it to us as it truly is, providing a reliable and valid awareness of our surroundings. This reliability is self-evident and irrefutable. To question the efficacy of our senses is to engage in a contradiction, because even the act of doubting them requires their use. For instance, arguing about the unreliability of the senses in a scientific paper involves using sight to read and write, touch to interact with materials, and hearing to present and discuss findings. This scenario shows a fundamental contradiction: the reliance on the very senses one seeks to discredit. Critics might challenge the trustworthiness of our sensory experiences, suggesting they are deceptive. However, such arguments overlook the critical role of sensory data in our understanding of reality. It's through our senses that we gain insight into the world, a process that remains unchanged even as we employ technological advancements to broaden our perceptual boundaries. Whether through direct experience or enhanced by technological means like telescopes or microscopes, everything we learn and perceive from reality ultimately reaches us through our senses. These devices do not circumvent our sensory experience, but rather extend it, transforming unseen or distant phenomena into perceivable sensory data. In essence, our senses are the gateway to knowledge. They are not just tools, but the very basis of our cognition, enabling us to explore and understand the universe. Since our senses are valid and form the base upon which all knowledge is constructed, let's examine the intricate process by which our minds refine this raw sensory data into the coherent structure of knowledge through the formation of concepts. Look at these apples. Each one has its own unique shape, size, and shade of color. Yet, we recognize them all as apples. This recognition is not just perception, it's the beginning of concept formation, a fundamental process that allows us to make sense of the world around us. Concept formation is our mind's way of organizing sensory data. We observe objects, note their similarities, and abstract these observations into a mental package we call a concept. For apples, it's their round shape, the stem on top, and the fact that they're a type of fruit. We ignore the individual measurements like the exact size or specific shades of red, focusing instead on what makes an apple an apple. Now consider chairs. They too exhibit a vast array of characteristics. Materials range from wood to plastic to metal. Designs vary from simple four-legged structures to complex chairs with wheels and adjustable features. Despite these differences, we effortlessly categorize them all under a single concept of chairs. This is because our minds identify and abstract the essential characteristics common to all chairs, such as a seat designed for one person, a backrest, and support structures, while disregarding the diverse styles, materials, and specific functionalities. This process creates a hierarchy of knowledge. Just as a building's foundation supports all above it, our simplest concepts support more complex ones. From apples, we move on to fruit, then food, and similarly, from chair, we might abstract to furniture, then household items, and so on. Each concept is built on the ones that came before it, forming a structured web of understanding that encompasses everything from the concrete to the abstract. Think of it like building blocks. The lower blocks represent our basic concepts, formed from direct sensory experience. As we learn and grow, we stack new blocks on top, each representing more complex and abstract ideas. But no matter how high we build, every concept traces back to those foundational blocks of sensory data. Through the concept formation process, our minds transform the chaos of sensory data into the ordered beauty of knowledge. This not only allows us to understand the world, but also to navigate it, predict it, and ultimately master it. In Objectivism, this process reveals the power of the human mind to grasp reality, affirming that knowledge at every level is rooted in the evidence of our senses. Now that we know how concept formation lays the foundation blocks for thought, we might wonder what happens after that. How do we use these blocks to construct a coherent understanding of the world? This question leads us to one of the core principles of Objectivism, the primacy of reason. The journey from perceiving individual objects to abstracting them into concepts showcases not just the capacity of our senses, but more importantly, the indispensable role of reason in organizing and integrating these perceptions. Ayn Rand defined reason as the faculty that identifies and integrates the materials provided by man's senses. Reason is not just a tool, but the essence of our survival, and the primary means through which we acquire knowledge. It enables us to evaluate evidence, make informed decisions, and navigate the complexities of life. In Objectivism, rationality is the firm commitment to reason as the exclusive source of knowledge, elevating it to the highest virtue. Objectivism rejects entirely the notion that revelations or mystical insights are valid sources of knowledge. Instead, it places reason at the center of human cognition. As we saw in metaphysics, every entity in the universe, including humans, has a specific identity and nature. This means that humans must interact with reality in a manner that reflects our unique human nature. Therefore, navigating life through reason is not just a preference, but a fundamental requirement for achieving genuine human flourishing. Rand's emphasis on reason as our primary means of knowledge asserts that to live fully as humans, we must embrace our rational nature. This commitment to rationality, as we'll see in later segments, informs our ethical and political choices, guiding us towards actions that are in harmony with our nature and the nature of reality. In essence, reason is the tool that not only connects us to reality, but also enables us to transform it. By integrating the material provided by our senses into coherent concepts and acting upon these with a rational approach, we harness the power to shape our destiny. Having explored the crucial role of reason in linking us to reality and recognizing it as the fundamental means for acquiring knowledge, our journey leads us to the next question. How is all this knowledge integrated? Objectivism holds that for knowledge to significantly impact our understanding and actions, it must be coherent and unified. But what does this mean in simple terms? It means that all the information we learn and all the knowledge we acquire should fit together like pieces of a puzzle. Every new fact or idea we come across should seamlessly join with what we already know without any contradiction. Why is this important? Because it helps us make sure that our beliefs and understandings are always in line with reality. Imagine you learn something new that doesn't quite fit with what you already know. According to objectivism, you'd need to take a closer look, figure out where there's a mismatch, and adjust your understanding until everything aligns correctly. This process ensures that our knowledge is consistent and reliable. Consider the task of preparing a complex dish for the first time. You have a recipe that outlines specific ingredients and steps. As you start cooking, you recall a tip from a cooking show to add lemon juice for flavor, not mentioned in your recipe. As you plan to integrate this tip, you remember your recipe includes milk for a creamy sauce, and lemon juice could curdle milk, potentially spoiling the sauce. To navigate this, you research and learn that adding lemon juice after cooking the sauce slightly avoids curdling. This technique allows you to incorporate the new flavor-enhancing tip without compromising the sauce's texture, demonstrating how adapting and integrating new knowledge can lead to a successful outcome. This approach of thoughtful integration reflects a broader principle. By carefully combining new insights with existing knowledge, we achieve coherence and consistency, akin to piecing together a map that accurately represents reality, guiding us to make informed decisions. In essence, integrating knowledge without contradiction is about building a coherent and consistent understanding of the world. It's like constructing a map that accurately reflects the terrain of reality, ensuring we can navigate life's challenges with clarity and confidence. By keeping our knowledge integrated, we equip ourselves to make better decisions and live more effectively. In the quest for knowledge, how does one distinguish true facts from subjective internal experiences such as feelings, desires, emotions, or personal biases? How can one reach certainty? This brings us to the principle of objectivity in knowledge. This topic resonates deeply with me, as I sometimes find myself caught up in disagreements and misunderstandings when interacting with others. I'm sometimes branded as intolerant, seemingly shut off from differing viewpoints. In reality, however, my openness to alternate perspectives is genuine, but my acceptance is dependent upon their alignment with reality. Ideas not founded on this solid ground find little favor in me. What is objectivity then? Objectivity is the commitment to acknowledging facts as they are, free from personal biases, emotions, or arbitrary judgments. It serves as a foundational principle that ensures our cognitive processes are anchored firmly to the reality of the world as it objectively exists, rather than merely reflecting our subjective interpretations or desires. This principle becomes particularly clear when we recognize that while our sensory data are accurate reflections of reality, the challenge lies in accurately interpreting this data. Through objectivity, we apply reason to our perceptions, ensuring our beliefs are consistent with reality. Consider the phenomenon where a stick partially submerged in water appears bent due to the refraction of light. Despite our initial sensory perception, we know through objective analysis that the stick remains straight. Similarly, the experience of color blindness demonstrates that while our perceptions can vary significantly, the colors of objects in the world do not change based on our individual ability to perceive them. These examples highlight the critical role of objectivity in transcending our immediate sensory experiences to grasp the true nature of reality. Objectivity is not a mere preference or guideline. It is an essential methodology for engaging with the world. It requires us to apply reason consistently, to integrate our knowledge without contradiction, and to respect the evidence of our senses. When we adhere to objectivity, we ensure that our beliefs, conclusions, and actions are based on the reality captured through our senses and organized through concept formation. This commitment to objectivity is what enables us to distinguish between mere opinion or wishful thinking and knowledge that accurately represents the world. It guards against the fallacy that truth is subjective or relative to individual perspectives. Instead, truth is discoverable, understandable, and absolute, contingent on the facts of reality as they are, not as we might want them to be. The methodology of objectivity involves rigorous adherence to logic, the art of non-contradictory identification, which acts as the guide in our quest for knowledge. Logic ensures that from the simplest perceptual data to the most complex theoretical constructs, our cognitive framework remains aligned with reality. It is through logical reasoning that we validate our concepts, test our hypotheses, and integrate new knowledge with the existing body of truth. Embracing objectivity in knowledge does more than just anchor our thoughts to reality. It empowers us. It enables us to navigate the world with confidence, make informed decisions, and achieve our values and goals. By committing to the objective evaluation of facts, objectivism equips us with a robust toolset for living a purposeful, rational, and fulfilling life. In this light, objectivity is not just a philosophical principle, but a practical guide to action and a solid foundation in our pursuit of truth and understanding. Have you ever thought about why you focus on certain things and not others? Think about it. Why do you, for example, sometimes decide to tackle a difficult situation or challenge, while other times you just let it slide by? Well, the answer is because thinking is something we choose to do. This means we're not just passive observers. We decide what we pay attention to. Why is this important? Because it means our ability to think is a big part of being free. When we recognize that our thoughts and choices are within our control, we affirm our autonomy and capacity for self-determination, which are essential components of freedom. This brings us to the fascinating idea in objectivism that cognition or thinking is entirely volitional. What does this mean? Simply put, when we gather information and learn about the world, we're not just passively taking things in. Instead, we actively decide to focus our minds and think. This choice, the decision to engage our minds or not, lies at the heart of what we call free will. It is in fact the only fundamental choice we have. Imagine you're facing a complex problem, such as a big project due at work. You could simply coast through it, doing the bare minimum to get by. The effort to solve it isn't automatic. You must decide to concentrate, analyze the information, and think through potential solutions. The choice to concentrate, think critically, and apply your mental faculties is entirely yours. This is a prime example of volition in cognition. The active decision to engage your mind in problem solving rather than passively letting the situation unfold. The concept of volition in cognition is about recognizing that at every moment we have the power to choose whether to apply our minds to the tasks and challenges before us. So, when objectivism talks about volition in cognition, it's emphasizing a powerful aspect of human nature, our capacity to direct our thinking, to choose to be rational. This is the basis of our free will and a crucial element in the pursuit of a meaningful, ethical life. Through this lens, we see that our ability to think, to choose, and to act with intention is not just a part of learning, it's a fundamental part of what it means to be human. In our final stop of our exploration of objectivist epistemology, let's dive into what it means to grasp something with certainty. Is it about having all the answers, or is it more about perceiving clearly based on the evidence at hand? According to objectivism, knowledge is contextual. At its core, the idea here is that certainty isn't about being infallible or knowing everything. That's impossible. Instead, certainty is about understanding things clearly based on the evidence we have and the context we're in. It means knowing something is true because we've looked at the facts and everything checks out, given our current understanding and situation. This means that what we know is always based on a specific context or set of circumstances. For example, the knowledge or skills needed to navigate a city are different from those needed to hike through a forest. Navigating a city requires a certain set of knowledge and skills, such as understanding traffic patterns, public transportation systems, and urban navigation, which are vastly different from the skills one would need to navigate a forest, such as understanding natural landmarks, trail navigation, and survival skills. Each piece of knowledge is valid within its own context, and understanding this helps us apply the right information in the right situations. This principle highlights the idea that reality exists independently of our wishes, and our knowledge and action must be attuned to the specific nature of the reality we are engaging with. Recognizing the distinct contexts in which knowledge applies enables us to adapt our understanding and actions appropriately, ensuring that we are effectively aligned with the objective reality of our environment. Understanding this leads us to another important part of this idea. We're human, and humans make mistakes. We might misunderstand something or not have all the information we need at first. The great news, though, is that making mistakes doesn't mean we're stuck. Objectivism emphasizes that we can find and fix our errors through more observation and reasoning. It's like being a detective who doesn't get every guess is right the first time, but keeps gathering clues and thinking things through until the picture becomes clear. So when we talk about certainty in knowledge, we're really talking about being confident in what we know, while also being open to learning more and adjusting our understanding as we gather more evidence. This approach enables us to have confidence in our knowledge within our current context, while also maintaining a willingness to continue questioning and learning. Reflecting on my past, my understanding of what counts as knowledge has shifted dramatically. In my younger days, I often accepted revelations or feelings as unquestionable truths, using them as a basis for my actions. This approach frequently resulted in significant frustration and dissatisfaction. For example, I remember making critical career decisions based on gut feelings rather than concrete evidence or rational analysis. Without proper evaluation, I jumped head-on into multiple career paths that seemed perfect in my imagination but were poor fits in reality, leading to professional setbacks and significant emotional pain. Another instance involved investing lots of time in projects because they felt right, ignoring the lack of a solid business plan, which ultimately resulted in a loss of time and resources. These experiences taught me the hard way the importance of a rational, evidence-based approach to knowledge and decision-making. This directly ties into the idea that consciousness is volitional. The examples I've shared illustrate that I chose not to exercise focused reasoning. I allowed whims to guide my actions, which inevitably led to frustrations. What about you? I invite you to reflect on your own experiences. Have you found yourself making decisions in a similar manner, led more by impulse than by reasoned judgment? In this segment on objectivist epistemology, we've seen how our senses and reason help us understand the world. But there is more to our human experience and needs than just cold knowledge acquisition. Now we're about to enter into the realm of ethics, how we determine what's right and wrong. Just like we use our senses to perceive and reason to understand, ethics helps us figure out how to act in the world. It's about making choices that lead to a good life based on what we know to be true. So as we move forward, let us remember the most important principle of objectivist epistemology. Reason is our only true means to knowledge, so let's use it accordingly.